Here. Counselor Joseph. Counselor Caddy.
Here.
Counselor Tran.
Here. Right. The agenda will consist of the following. Communication from His Honor the Mayor appointing and asking for confirmation of following appointees as student police officers to the City of Fitchburg, Fitchburg Police Department, Mr. Demetrius D. Phillips, Mr. Nathan D. Lampkin. And the Mayor is asking that we refer that to the September 6th
Would it be
appointment.
referred to the September 6, 2016 Appointments Committee meeting?
I have a motion and second to refer these two appointments to the September 6th Appointments Committee meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. Public hearing on the following orders. 20116. Do we have a actual script for the opening? Okay. 20116, order eminent domain for the safe routes to school, South Street, Fairbanks Street, Old South Street, Ellis Street, and Electric Ave. Temporary easements as outlined in the closed order. Should we read them separately or together?
You can have the hearing together.
Okay. And 20216, order eminent domain for safe routes to school, South Street, Fairbanks Street, Old South Street, Ellis Street, and Electric Ave, temporary and permanent easements as outlined in the enclosed order. Declare the hearing open. I'd like to ask a person or persons representing the petition to please be seated at the center table. And please, you can stay there. That's fine, Mark.
Yeah, Mark Goldstein, Assistant City Solicitor. These are easements for a significant construction project along South Street. It's been in the works for a number of months. All the property owners have been notified a number of times. Some of the properties have been donated, some are not. Most of them are temporary easements for the construction projects. It is eminent domain, so that there were assessed value, there were values attributed to these temporary easements. If the order is passed, then notices will go out to the owners with the pro tanto amounts. If the owners believe that they have been not fully compensated under GL Chapter 79, they have a right within 3 years to file an appeal in the Superior Court for additional assessment or additional compensation. As long as it's for a public purpose, which what this is, then the city has a right to go forward, and they don't. The owners don't have a right to actually stop this sort of issue. We did speak to one gentleman today, and he was explaining some specific issues about his property, and so that the amounts are listed. And we would certainly like, before anybody files a petition in Superior Court, which is expensive for all homeowners, to come back and talk to us if there's going to be more disruptive issues on the temporary easements. There's actually two. There's one for the regular registry of deeds, and then there's one for the registered land as well.
Mr. Goldstein, would that require
I hear what you're saying, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, there's actually two orders, one for the registered land, because that's to be filed differently, and one for the other land that's not registered.
Realizing that there's two potential people contesting these amounts due to specific issues, can they be passed as is this evening, or do they need a specific amendment to a particular line on that chart of amounts?
No, I mean, I would pass as is. Again, the owners have a right to appeal. They have 3 years up to appeal, but it is, it's an expensive route. And so what we would like to do is we would pass, and if they have specific issues, they could come and talk to the legal department and see if we can make some adjustments at a future date. If they want to file an appeal with Superior Court, they can. These determinations were done by appraisals. An appraiser was hired to do these, so they feel this is the fair market value for the temporary easements.
And this would fall within the contingency amount that we have set aside as a city to
Yes.
negotiate this without subsequent orders coming?
Yes. I'm not sure where the money's coming from, but I think it's coming from either the grant or it's coming from some source of money, yes.
Thank you. Do we have anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Sir, if you could please approach the center table, introduce yourself by name and address.
I live at 367 South Street. Now, on my appeasement, there's probably 5 times as much property being appeased as my neighbor, 2 houses down. He's getting the same amount I'm getting. Why is that?
I can't answer that. I would, if the
Does
engine,
anybody have any answers? That's the problem with all these meetings. There's no transparency. Nobody ever comes out and tells you straight.
if we had the engineer here, I would be happy to refer that to the engineer. I can't,
But he didn't do the assessment. I mean, why is one guy's property that probably has maybe 50 linear feet, 10 feet, 15 feet deep, where I have 250 feet linear, 15 feet deep? We get the same amount compensation?
I don't have an answer for you. All I'm saying that these are just temporary.
Write down a note and get me an answer for that?
So you certainly are not only, you're certainly able to and encouraged to get an assessment or appraisal, rather, of your property to be able to compare and certainly contest. So if you feel that in any way the city is offering you an unfair amount of money, you're certainly encouraged
Well, I'm
to.
asking, the question, if you listened, was half the amount of property gets the same compensation as I got, or probably maybe 5 times as much property being appeased. Obviously, you don't have the answer. You don't know.
I'm not an
Don't
appraiser,
know.
sir.
Does anybody here know who's an official? Anybody?
I don't know, sir.
Nobody knows. So what's the deal? What is the deal?
Mr. Goldstein, could you please speak to the process by which,
Yeah, I mean, the appraisal, there's appraisal that went out. These are only temporary easements. These are not permanent easements. You're going to be able to enjoy the land after after the construction. It may be linear feet versus actually square feet, but the appraisal determined what the value is, and that's what we used. And that's what we're instructed.
Size, right?
I understand that, sir. But all I'm saying to you is that that's what the appraisal determined, because these are just temporary easements. These aren't permanent easements. We're not taking your land away forever. We're just using them for a certain period of time. So that's the value that they determine. I understand that you feel that it's not just compensation. I get that. So there's an appeal process. In the appeal process, then you can go forward with that. It does cost some money to go through an appeal process. I'm not going to deny that.
And now, because of this appeasement, my mortgage company is looking for money. Is anyone going to help us with that? Huh? No one can answer anything. So why have this goddamn meeting? You guys can't answer a single question.
I'd kindly ask you to to be
I will
polite in
sit
your
down.
language.
There's nothing's going to come out of your mouth.
Mr. Mayor, I believe you had a comment to add.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Goddard, I can assure you that my office will find out what the situation is. I don't know what the facts are for those 2 different appraisals. And there must be some information there that we're not aware of, all right? Or it could simply be wrong, maybe right. We'll find out, and we'll let you know by tomorrow.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Good evening.
Salutations. My name is Louis Joseph. I live at 465 Old South Street. You say they just want a temporary easement, but they want some of my land now. And you look at, you say fair market value. The price they're giving me, okay, what the value of a square foot of land was a year ago and what a square foot of land is today are 2 different factors. And they're paying me $40 less fair market value. And you're saying it's all fair. I agree with the other gentleman. I went to the other meetings and nobody could give me answers on anything about this. Not only that, we're out of the school zone. If you look at the signs, we're nowhere near the school zone. So explain to me why you say fair market value, but it isn't according to printed facts.
Well, they hired an appraiser, and at that point in time, they try to determine what the fair market value is. The
Okay.
market does fluctuate, And at that point, that was the value that was determined.
Last year, it was $77. This year, it's 93 something. The figures are out there. So when you're giving me a $50 price, I have to ask, where's the fair market value? I mean, to me, that equates that somebody here is crooked.
I don't think anybody's crooked here, sorry to tell you.
How do you explain
I don't
the
think there's any.
$40 difference in the square foot
I
price of
cannot,
land?
I cannot answer that.
I
I can
don't
tell you
want to
that.
hear that. I want to hear answers.
I cannot answer your question.
Why?
Because as I already answered your question, sir, and sir, we answered the question that the appraisal at the time determined the fair market value. If you feel,
you took a guy from Danvers to appraise property in Fitchburg, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We all know, we even know Bemis Road, how that was a fiasco. You had an outside company come in, redesign the intersection, and for the first time in the history of that intersection, they had a 5-car pileup. Okay, you're bringing out-of-town people that have no connection with this community, and you're going on their advice and their opinions.
yes,
Okay? Well, I'm beginning to wonder, do you have the experience or the necessary education to be in the position you're in if all your answers can be, I don't know, or I don't have those answers? You people set up these meetings, and yet you people are ill-prepared. This is your project. How do you expect to get the community to be behind you and support you when you can't even give them straight-out fair answers about simple things that anybody here can check up on Google?
well, if that's where you're getting your
I'm
values,
not
then I
getting
wouldn't
my
rely on
values
those
here, but I'm
values,
using
sir.
that as an example.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be relying on those examples. This was a hired appraisal that came out and gave us the fair market value. We took that fair market value, and that's the number we used.
So you
That's
don't
why,
even
sir,
know the
excuse
fair
me,
market value of
Sir.
land in your own city?
Sir, the Assistant City Solicitor is answering your
Ask
question.
me a
Please give him
question,
the
I'm
opportunity.
answering
He's
it.
avoiding my answers.
I'm not avoiding your answer. If you listen, you'll hear that we took the appraisal. If you have an appeal process, sir, and if you don't like the value, then you can file an appeal.
The question is you're saying you're giving fair market value, but you're not. Why should I have to spend money to fight your lives?
I think I've answered the question, sir.
You haven't. You haven't. Does anybody here feel you answered my question? You're our elected officials. You have a responsibility to us. We put you in your position, and then all you do is whitewash us?
I really feel I've answered your question. You just don't like the answer, and I don't know what else I can do.
I haven't got an answer. I don't know where I stand still. I stand in the same spot I stood when I walked up to this chair. All you're saying, every single word out of, you can appeal, you can appeal, you can appeal.
Right.
Okay? That's your only answer?
That is the answer.
That's it?
That is the answer.
So basically what you're telling is you're going to bulldoze over all of us. Is that what we elected you for?
Sir, you have
We
three.
elected you for leadership,
Sir,
Mr.
you have 3 years
DiNatale.
to appeal.
You came to my house when you asked for a vote. Didn't the vast majority of your supporters say they trust you, and you actually settle for this?
Mr. Joseph, as the Assistant Solicitor's told you, you have an opportunity to appeal this. This is not cast in stone. If the number doesn't work, if it doesn't make sense, we'll adjust that.
But then why do I have to spend money to
You're asking
correct
for
your
exact
errors?
figures that
No,
we
I'm
don't
not.
have.
I'm not asking for
Okay.
no exact figures. Not at all. Not at all.
You're in the same situation as Mr. Gotti. We will get the answers for you as soon as we can.
Well, how was this allowed to get to this level?
But we followed the procedure.
But in every
It's an
meeting
appraisal.
we
You can
went.
have your own appraisal to counter what we've provided.
I don't have an appraisal. I'm not here for greed. I'm not here for any reason. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is why we're getting all no answers. I've been very cooperative at the other meetings, but every time I've walked away, I've had no answers. I can't even I show them the map and it's like, show me exactly what you want. They haven't outlined it on any of my maps. That's cooperation?
I understand your frustration.
You know, I mean, I'm not here to stop anything. I'm not saying I even want more money. What I'm saying is I want fair, honest answers. That's all.
Sir, I would encourage you after this meeting to please sit down with the city solicitor, staff, and the mayor's staff. and hopefully they can walk you through both the appraisal process and the appeal process as it is before you.
Mr. Joseph, my Economic Development Director, Mary Jo Barnes, she'll take your contact information. We'll reach out to you, and if need be, come into the office, we'll sit down, we'll discuss what's going on. Hopefully it'll be a lot clearer for you.
I hope so.
Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Seeing none? I did. Yes. Seeing none, declare the hearing closed. Counselors, the matter is before you.
If you want to be adopted.
Order or orders?
Orders.
I have a motion and second to adopt 201 and 20216. Speaking to the motion, Counselor Tran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a question to the Assistant City Solicitor. Were there any other meetings, communications with the abutters prior to this meeting?
I will tell you that city solicitor, Vinnie Custeri, handled this project pretty much from start to finish. He's on vacation this week. I'm sitting in for him. He's praised me of the process that he used. I know there was a couple of meetings. I know he had a chart. I know that he had sent correspondence to various times to all the abutters to either try to get the land donated or to talk about compensation. I think I'm aware that some of the engineers might have been at those meetings. So if he was here, I think he might have been able to fill in a little bit more about what happened at the prior meetings, but I was not involved with those.
So part of that process, some of those meetings allowed the abutters to be able to participate in the whole process and allow them the opportunity to discuss about the appraisals.
That's what I was led to believe.
So what's the timeline for us to be able to provide the two gentlemen who came before us the answers to their questions tonight? I know that the mayor mentioned that the Director of Economic Development would be discussing with one of the gentlemen. Can we assure them or give them a timeline when they can get the answers?
Well, I would assume that sometime next week that the engineer could be called into the city and sit down and go over the plans. I wouldn't think that would be a difficult process.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Goldstein, I'd just ask, every abutter was notified by mail
Yes.
of the assessed value?
A number of times.
Okay. Beginning when, roughly? Beginning when?
Was it May?
There was a series of letters going out starting May the 18th. There was another letter that went out July the 13th. There was another letter that went out July the 22nd. There was a meeting held at South Street School June the 2nd. I believe there was a meeting that preceded that. There were two appraisals done. There was an appraisal and there was a review appraisal done. And the valuation was based on that. These appraisers were certified to be appraised. And when a taking is done by the city has to give the appraised value for the property. So the appraisals have been done, and I would defer to Attorney Custeri on releasing them or to our mayor. But these two appraisals have been done, and depending on their permission, could be released as the basis of the award. The square footage, number one, is temporary in nature. Number two, it's small. For instance, I believe Mr. Joseph's is around 148 square feet. It's not a lot of property, and I think I took a quick look at the online version of the appraisal that I have, and it seemed to be about $2.24 a square foot. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Laxo.
I just wanted to point out that one of the properties changed hands 2 days ago, so the order had to be amended a couple days ago to reflect the new owner, so I just wanted to make sure you're voting on the correct order.
Yes, I believe they do have the correct order.
And the city clerk has verified that we have the correct order as most recently amended. Any further comments from councilors? I have a motion and second to adopt 201 and 20216. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None in opposition? It is unanimous. Petition 20916, City Solicitor Vincent Pusateri to accept as gifts, purchase, or to take by eminent domain under Mass General Law, Chapter 79 et al., both permanent and temporary easement over certain parcels of land required for Safe Routes to School project.
I think he would like this adopted. I think that he wants it passed under suspension tonight.
Okay. Councilors, I'd be asking for this to be taken under suspension of the rules.
Suspension rules.
Second.
I have a motion and second to suspend the rules on 20916. Speaking to the motion, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is before you.
Second.
I have a motion and second to adopt 20916. Speaking to the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous. The motion carries. Ordinances. 20416, an ordinance establishing the Westminster Hill Road Commercial Recreation Overlay District as outlined in the enclosed ordinance. Final reading. 20516, an ordinance establishing Section 181.89A5 use regulations, Section 181.89A6 special permit and site plan review requirements, Section 181.89A7 waivers, and Section 181.89A8 variability. As outlined in the enclosed ordinance. Final reading. Councilors, I'll remind you that this requires 9 votes, 3/4 majority in order to pass.
Be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion and second to adopt 204 and 20516 and send to their third and final reading, enrolled, ordained, and advertised. Speaking to the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous. Oh, sorry, I apologize. One in opposition, Councilor Tran. Sorry, Councilor Tran. Motion carries by a 9-1 vote.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.